Ah, ya me están regañando. ¿Qué dices?
Si ya lo hubieras lavado.
¿Lavado dónde? Si esta chingadera no se mueve.
¿Cómo chingadera? Ahí le vamos a poner el muñeco.
¿De quién chingadera es esta, Brian?
Brian, muñeco. Muñeco es Brian.
We are currently trying to get this car prepped, and we have the master mechanic, señor.
¿Qué onda, güey?
We have the so-called owner.
So-called, yeah.
And the abuelo. Abuelo! Well, so we're gonna get it set up. I have to take my daughter to a birthday party, but these guys are gonna get going. The current work that is going to be happening today is going to be a transmission. No, not transmission. Harold, are you gonna drop the transmission?
Yeah.
Transmission drop, change of clutch, flywheel, and all the goodies. And then hopefully it goes, starts going. But stick around, it's gonna be fun. Let's go. Welcome back to another episode. This episode is a little different. We have a different format. There was a lot of work that went into this fixing. As I mentioned in the previous episode, if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it. We picked it up. We were able to bring it to my house to host it so my nephew and my brother-in-law can fix it. It's a 2005 Mini Cooper. And it's supercharged, and the issues that it had from the previous owner was that the car had no clutch since it was I guess abused, and that's why we're here. We're trying to fix it and trying to be able to get it working. Unfortunately, as I mentioned before, I had to go take my daughter to a birthday party, and I wasn't gonna skip that, so I had my nephews and my brother-in-law work on the car while I was gone so I can come back and help them out. But it was extensive. They had to do so much work to get it to the point that we can swap the clutch. So we are midway there. Let me walk you what we've done. What have we done?
Nothing.
Nothing? What do you mean?
No, nothing. Nothing is done yet.
Nothing? You just started like breaking it apart? What did you take? The intake?
The front, the modular front.
Like fryers.
Basically the radiator support. The front of the subframe. We're about to drop the subframe, but we're taking apart the power steering and the steering linkage, so we can drop it because it comes with the subframe. So we gotta come down with the subframe.
So everything, the whole half front of the engine has to come out.
Not the half, just this so we can get space, and then over here, if you want to look, where the steering linkage gets mounted to the transmission. Right here.
Okay.
And that gotta get disconnected with the power steering so that it can come down as a one unit with the subframe.
Are you gonna change the clamps for the steering? Because it looks like it's leaking.
With clamps?
Yeah, look, it's leaking right there.
It's probably an O-ring right here.
Oh.
This is usually on Germans, even on my old BMW, that leak.
Oh, cool. All right.
So it's just an O-ring.
Cool.
But yeah, that's about it.
So that's it? That's all you've done in like 4 hours?
We drained the 4 hours. It's been like 2 hours. We drained the coolant, drained the oil, and
Yo, get
Hey, PG-13.
And my nephew was working hard while my brother-in-law was watching him. Since my nephew works at a dealership and he knows a lot about mechanics, he went to school for it, and my brother-in-law has some experience helping just DIYs. I had to just skip up a little bit and then show you guys a little bit, otherwise you get bored. But here's again the time lapse of how they started breaking things apart, taking everything from the supercharger, the intercooler, the hoses, the subframe, and a bunch of other things that comes out. I know some people online say that you could just bring it out through the front, but my nephew had to change a couple more things like the main seal and a bunch of other gaskets behind the transmission. So he said it was better just to drop it and do all at once. So that's what they did, and it ended up working out pretty well for them. Yes, it was intensive. Yes, they took a
bunch of hours that translated to multiple days, but it is what it is. I go into details in a little bit about how much it was spent and how much it cost them to do so, but the end result was pretty nice. The car is running really, really good. So let's go over some things that are worth mentioning. Disassembling is not difficult when you are trying to do mechanics, but the important part is to keep everything organized. When you remove a part or something that comes out of the car, make sure you keep tabs on how many bolts he came with, what type of bolts they are, if he comes with any nuts or any specific pieces. My nephew was really smart. I had a bunch of cups, solo cups from a previous party that they got dirty while construction was going on in my house, and so he just decided to repurpose them and use the cups as markings. And so he would write with a Sharpie on the cup the location and the part that it came from, and he kept all his bolts and parts organized, which was very helpful when they were putting everything back. That being said, keep track of everything you remove. They ended up doing something where they put in locations in my garage. One side had certain parts, another one had the subframe, another area had the transmission and the flywheel and everything, and they did make sure that everything was accounted for. So in this case, because we had to remove the transmission and the oil was just old from usage, we had to drain all the fluids. I mean, when I say we, is like they did, because I had not been back then, but it was very important to do it in such a way that you did not make any mistakes. In this case, we were reusing the same transmission fluid since it had just been changed not long before. And so funny enough was that I had a bunch of Harbor Freight new buckets that I bought from my car washes that my nephew and my brother-in-law just repurposed them, and they used it for the transmission fluid. It was very, very good because they labeled the buckets and they were able to keep track of that, since one of the buckets needed to be reused as the transmission fluid. And I believe they did flush the cooling fluid because it was just old and they got new one. But that's something really important to do. If you're gonna drain any fluid and you're going to reuse it, make sure you keep tabs on where you leave it, and if you put it on a bucket or in a container, make sure you label it so you don't dump something that is not and you end up messing up the car. In this case, as you can see, the gentleman on the green sweater, he's the previous owner. He's really good friends with my brother-in-law, and he's the one that sold the car to my brother-in-law, and he wanted to be part of the project. And obviously he's helping my brother-in-law with this, and he showed up, and now brings me to the next topic, which is there were 3 people working at one point, and I mean, my nephew, the youngest one, is just help, because as you can see, he's on the phone and he's not really helping out. But at some point there were 3 people working at once, so it's very full of labor, this kind of swap. I wouldn't personally have been able to do so, but kudos to them that they were able to do so. I came in later to just help them with certain things. My knowledge of cars is still limited. I know some, but not everything. So I'm very thankful that my nephew knows as much as he does. We have the clutch here, the flywheel. Harold, is this new?
Yeah.
From where?
¿Esta o esta?
And we have the clutch assembly.
Valeo.
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 And then
No tiene ruido.
the what's this called again?
The clutch and liner tool.
And here we have the coolant, antifreeze, motor oil, oil filter, and oil gasket.
Ayúdame a...
And there you have it. We have the frame down. As promised, we had to remove that, and we had the transmission.
Subscribe. ¿Cómo se llama?
Missing gears.
Missing Gears.
Sí,
No se
sí,
olviden.
missing gears.
Hay buenos tutoriales de qué? De
De
hamburguesas.
cómo hacer hamburguesas y cómo cambiar flywheels y cómo tomar Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And there you have it. We had removed the clutch. The old clutch was so bad. It was just so worn out, broken, you name it. And we have a comparison between the new one and the old one. Usually people who do cars or who are car enthusiasts and understand that once you take the transmission and the clutch out, it's better just to use something on the higher end so that we don't have to run the same risk of burning it that quick if you don't know how to drive. In this case, my nephew, the youngest one, is going to be using it, and he does not know how to drive pretty well. So as you can see, there's some damage to the disc. Therefore, it was good that we changed everything. One thing I want to focus on is that when you do a project like that at home, make sure you have all the tools that you need. There are certain things that you will use and will need, and if you do not have them handy, it's going to drag and it's going to become a nightmare because basically what you're doing is you're thinking you have it all set and you end up needing tools, and you're going to have to defocus to go and get another tool or to borrow it from somebody, and you're gonna end up having to run around going to go get something when you don't need to. That being said, if you're using your car, like if you're fixing the car that will be your daily car or your daily, you don't have a car to go get anything, so you're gonna need help from somebody to go get a tool or get the parts that you don't have. So just keep an open mind for these type of things. Back to this video, we have here the need of a special tool that we didn't have, so I brainstormed with my nephew about what tool we can use, and I just thought to myself, why don't we use a tape roll and see if we can insert the main seal to the assembly. It ended up working okay, but it wasn't as perfect as we wanted it to be. So at the end, we ended up just grabbing a piece of wood, a plank of wood, and then just somehow just made it work. But then again, you know, this is not an ideal situation. Sometimes you just are not gonna have anything to work with, and therefore you always have to plan ahead of time and make sure you have all the tools that you need. By this point, I had gotten very hands-on and I was already helping them out with anything. We were torquing the clutch. It was, again, you know, you need the specific tools to make sure that you are doing it right. And we were using the torque wrench to make sure that we had the right tightness on the bolts. But it was very hard since the clutch keeps spinning. So we had to use a pry tool to hold it in place. Again, I wouldn't have been able to do it myself as a single person, so it's always helpful to have somebody to help you do these kind of things.
Here we are, day number 2. We're starting to assemble back the transmission, flywheel, and all the goodies inside. So we're going to put the bolts and bolt it in. So we ran into a little bit of an issue. We had the transmission aligning up, and because there were so many cables around it that we had to basically just not manhandle it, but use the 3 of us, zip tie everything around it and slide it in, and finally was able to just go in. But yeah, this is a tedious job. You used all the parts in the stuff? So basically, the car was worth or costed $1,000 to my brother-in-law. Then how much was the clutch assembly?
Like
$800 for everything. Throw, bearing, clutch, everything. How about fluids? Oh, we including the fluids?
Yeah, everything.
Okay, so that's about 1,900, and so therefore plus the labor, if he was to charge it, would have been about 1,500. So you're looking at about $4,000 car now.
Everything back.
What's everything?
Everything.
What are you currently putting back on? The motor mount?
No, we put the motor mount on.
Okay, so I wasn't here for that. I went to get lunch, but so motor mount. What else?
Motor mount is in. Wire harness. We're about to put the subframe back in.
Okay, so subframe, and after the subframe is the axles connection, then the end links.
Yeah, and everything.
Then you put the actual
airbox.
Airbox. And then after that goes the intercooler. Not intercooler, intercooler, right? Or is it the radiator?
Yeah, the intercooler's up here.
Right, so intercooler, and then tie up with a radiator core, whatever you call it. And then after that, what that's it, right?
Radiator support. Yeah.
Radiator
That's it. Everything.
and all that. All right, so then this is where we at, and it is second day. I want to say it's half a day. It's already like 2 p.m. and these guys started like at around 11. So yeah, we're gonna go on with this. Keep notes if you're trying to buy a beat up and fix it. While the people are at work, what is this guy doing? Playing with the jack. What are you doing? Trying to test the jacking weight? Yeah. Oh my God, this guy.
All the way up. I couldn't though.
Ese es el que va a tener.
And we continued. At this point, it was all hands on deck. Everybody was working on this. We were all trying to get it all done. When we were trying to put the axles back, we ended up snapping one of them out. And usually when you take the axle out of the assembly, it just almost never works out. So we will have to change both axles just because, to make sure and it's safe, since one of them was old and the other one came out. But yeah, I mean, as you can see here is what I told you guys. I have the cup with all the labeling. So we were starting to assemble everything: the intercooler, the front face, the fender, the brackets, the piping, the intercooler, everything had to go back. So it was a lot of work and they were all so tired. Do you guys see that plug? That plug drove us crazy. My nephew and I were trying to figure it out where that plug was supposed to go, and it literally drove us crazy for a good 2 days after we finished assembling everything. But then if you bump into this issue, it is the throttle body sensor and it goes right by the oil cap. So it's the end of day 2. Is around 7. Quiero sombrero. 7 p.m. 6 p.m. 6:15, and so we're going to end it today right here. Unfortunately, this is not finished. The car is still on stands, no wheels, but most of the parts got back. We put the crash bar, the intercooler, the radiator support, the actual subframe, the throttle body, the intercooler. I mentioned intercooler already. The ECU box is already set up to be plugged in. What else? We put in the under panels for the tires, and I think that's it. So we will be continuing. There's still an oil change, refilling the actual transmission fluid or oil, and after that just firing it up. So hopefully everything will work well. And yep, so stick around. This is the end of day 2.
Yeah, I see how it goes. Huh?
And there you have it, people. We finally finished it. Again, it needed axles, but this is a moving car. we finished assembling. I ended up having to do it on my spare time to put the bumper back on since it was left somewhere, but I could not let this car go without giving it a proper wash and make sure it looks fantastic for the rolls. It ended up being disgusting. The paint had some issues. Possibly at some point this car went through a bucket of paint on the highway that splattered some of it into the side doors, and also it has some like grease feeling on the windows. Don't know what's happening. It definitely needs some more detailing. I think it needs even a waxing or a polishing and compound. But for the time being, since it's not my car, I'll let the owners do and deal with it. For now, I just was able to give it a quick wash and make it look so pretty and shiny. And it makes me so happy too that washing time is always the most fun. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you like this content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.